morning. It's kind of a fun way to start the message by watching other parents fail at what they're doing. It is always so great to be here with you, and I'm excited to be able to share for just a few minutes some of the things that I have learned so far in my parenting. I recently watched the movie again, Inside Out. Have you guys seen Inside Out? Many of you, I'm sure, have. And as I'm watching, I'm reminded about all the great family and parenting moments in that movie, and really how much you can learn from it. And if you haven't seen it, the premise is we're following the life of a young girl named Riley, but we're following her life through the eyes of her personified emotions. So anger, fear, sadness, disgust. And there's one dinner table scene that so perfectly captures some of the challenges we face as parents. Check this clip out.
So, as it turns out, the green trash can is not recycling. It's for greens, like compost and eggshells. And the blue one is recycling. And the black one
Riley
is
is acting so weird. Why is she acting so weird?
What do you expect? All the islands are down.
Joy would know what to do.
That's it. Until she gets back, we just do what Joy would do.
Great idea. Anger, fear, disgust. How are we supposed to be happy?
Hey, Riley, I've got good news. I found a junior hockey league right here in San Francisco, and get this, tryouts are tomorrow after school. What luck, right?
Hockey.
Uh-oh, what do we do?
Guys, here, you pretend to be Joy.
Won't it be great to be back out on the ice?
Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic.
What was that? That wasn't anything like Joy.
Because I'm not Joy?
Yeah, no kidding.
Did you guys pick up on that?
Did.
Something's wrong.
Should we ask her?
Let's probe, but keep it subtle so she doesn't notice.
So, how was the first day of school?
She's probing us.
I'm done. You pretend to be Joy.
What? Okay.
It was fine, I guess. I don't know. Oh, very smooth. That was just like Joy.
Something is definitely going on.
She's never acted like this before. What should we do? We're gonna find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband. Ahem.
With a nice pass over to Reed, comes across that right.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us. What did she say?
What? Sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now.
Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
Move. I'll be Joy.
School was great, all right?
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
What is her deal? All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude. No. Stay happy.
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
You heard that, gentlemen? DEFCON 2.
Listen, young lady, I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops? Come and get it.
Yeah, well...
Here it comes. Prepare the foot.
Keys to safety position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
Just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room. Now.
Foot is down. The foot is down.
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
Come, fly with me, Gachinya.
So any parents out there experienced a situation like that? So you're trying to probe and problem solve, figuring out what is going on in the mind of your child. Who's in control in this moment? Fear? Sadness? Anger? And that's just the first step. Once you think you figured out what's going on with your child, you still have to determine what you're going to do as a response. Do I not say anything? Do I say something? Am I gentle? Do I need to put my foot down in this moment? Parenting is not for the faint of heart. However, the joys that can come with parenting far outweighs the challenges we experience. And I know for my husband and I, we are continually learning and growing in our role as parents. We mess up, we argue, we learn, we move on. And although there have been times when I've had definite mom fails, it's really been in those moments that I've seen that my kids aren't looking to me to be the picture of perfection. They're looking to me to be a parent who's trying. And so as we get going with this discussion on what it looks like to parent in a way that builds character in our kids, I want to encourage you with that your kids aren't needing you to be perfect. They're just needing you to keep going and to try. So a little bit about my family and the context of where I'm coming from. My husband Coulter and I have 3 incredible daughters. Our firstborn is Riley, and she's 16 with all of the driving and independence and new jobs, and she holds within herself a quiet determination. And then there's Molly, who's 14, and she's looking forward to high school in the fall. She is devoted to softball, and her heart is to help anyone at any time in any way she can. And no one can ever forget about Addie Mae, who's 12. She wants to experience everything life has to offer, and even when you're exhausted, there's just never too much fun for Addie. And so as you can imagine, our life right now is full of drama and boyfriends, fighting over clothes, but lots and lots of fun and laughter. And it's been the most amazing thing as our kids have gotten to be older, to see them step into their individual selves apart from us, apart from mom and dad. And it's really been in this season that I've learned the importance of putting my parental energy towards building their character. Because as many of you know who have gone through these stages already, when your kids get to be in their double digits and in their teen years, we as parents can't continue to control everything. We can't control how they spend all their time, their money, who they want to be friends with. And so although our parenting is far from over, more and more of the weight rests on how we have taught them to problem solve, think through their choices, consider the feelings of others. And because we can no longer be there to watch their every move, and if you try to be there to watch their every move, it creates a whole nother set of problems. Because we can no longer be there to control their every move, we must rely on the strength of the character that we've worked to instill, to be there with them when we're not. Now, a note for you, if you're not a parent, or if your kids are grown, please don't check out. Because although I'll be referring and speaking in the language of a parent, I truly believe that every point today will be applicable to any adults whose path crosses with that of a child. Whether you're a teacher, volunteer, a neighbor, aunt, uncles. Kids are always watching and always listening to all of us, which means we all have the responsibility, but also the great privilege to influence the next generation. So if we're going to be talking about building character into the lives of kids, it may be good to define what we mean when we talk about character, strong character, good character. Character is the moral and the ethical traits that an individual consistently displays. And this can vary some, but most people agree that someone who has character is honest, trustworthy, fair, and loyal. And if you're a follower of Jesus, it is him that is our model. It is who we look to for the characteristics we build in ourselves and we want to instill in our kids. And so one of the first things I thought of when I thought about building character into the lives of my kids is how important it is to focus on the roots. Jeremiah 17, 7-8 says, "But blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They are like trees planted along a riverbank, with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green, and they never stop producing fruit." I love this imagery. Can you picture it? A tree with a strong trunk and bright green leaves and healthy fruit. The wind blows and the branches move, but we know the tree itself will not be moved. And we know this because the roots are reaching deep and they're strong, being nourished by the cool water and the healthy soil. And as these roots grow in this fertile soil, they continue to get stronger, so much so that they're able to push through even times of drought. And we all know that there are times of drought in all of our lives. There's times when it feels like we're a tree planted in parched land, where it's a struggle to keep going. We read an account in the book of John where Jesus is sitting down by a well, and he begins a conversation with a woman who has been living in a spiritual desert, living in a spiritual drought. She's been looking for love and for life in all the wrong places. And Jesus desires to give her true life the only he can. And during their conversation, Jesus says, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And just as we have had moments of hardship, our kids will not be exempt from life's struggles. So we can use the opportunities that we have now to build roots of strength and resilience into their lives that they can depend on down the road. And all the while, as we're working to do this, it's important to remember that what will truly sustain them is the living water that only comes from Christ. And this is what I long for my kids. I desire for them to have roots of faith and confidence, character that is deep and healthy and rich. I desire that they would enter into their adult life with the strength to endure difficulty with hope and to handle conflict with integrity. And my desire is that they would live all of their years bearing fruit that will bless those around them. But just as it is with caring for a young tree, we as parents cannot guarantee the outcome. We can't control all the elements surrounding our kids as they grow, and we cannot protect them from every storm. But we can determine the health of the soil, that is getting consistent watering and nutrients. We can do what we can do now to help them grow strong roots for the future. There's a Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. The earlier we can invest and work on leading our children down the direction we want them to go, the better. If we have the opportunity now, let's not wait 20 years down the road. But if you are a parent who's sitting here with grown kids and you think, I would have done some things differently, remember that the second best time to plant a tree is now. You are still a parent. You still have a voice. You still have influence. Even if they're grown, your role's not over yet. It's just different. So are we looking at the immediate or the long term? I desire good for my kids now, but more than that, I desire character for them later. How about you? Are you looking at the long-term implications of your parenting, or are you focused on the immediate? I believe too often we let the momentary frustrations and pain determine our parenting instead of the long-term goals we want for our kids. And why is this? I can't speak for you, but I know in my own experience, it's been the hurry and the busy of life that has taken away from this important work. I get so focused on what I want to see in my kids now, the behaviors I want to see in them now, that I lose focus of the long-term goals I have for them. And when this happens, my focus is just on what color are the leaves right now? What does the fruit look like now? But there will be times when the leaves fall, there's no fruit, and we have to keep going. We have to keep focusing on the roots. Because it's truly at the root that the development and the health of character happen. Positive self-concept, empathy, other-centeredness, and kindness. And building character into the life of a child is not immediate. It doesn't happen overnight. It is not a sprint, but a marathon. And so it's important to adjust our focus to what we want to see in our children when they are 20, 30, 40 years old. What kind of man or woman do we want them to be? How do we want them to respond when they slip up morally, or when they lose a job, or when they fight with their spouse? And then what are we doing now to build the character they will need for the long term? And this is important because if we aren't clear about the end goal, we will get stuck in the tyranny of the urgent, and that's behavior modification. And trust me when I say that it is a lot easier said than done. When your 2-year-old is screaming and kicking and throwing a tantrum in the store, what's on your mind? It's how do I make this stop as soon as possible? Everyone is watching me. Or when your daughter is wearing too short of shorts and you're already late for school and you're already late for work, you just want to tell her to change without having to sit down and talk about what the implications are to her and to others with the choices she's making. And when your kids are fighting over the same thing that they've been fighting about every day for the last 1,000 years, you just want to send them to their rooms to save your sanity. And sometimes that is necessary. But all of these reactions are fruit-focused and not root-focused. They can understand this was acceptable, this was unacceptable, but they lack the development and the training to take it one step further and say, why was this unacceptable? What could I do differently in the future? And it's those next step questions that help them figure out character and build character. And so with understanding that it is so important to focus on the root, I believe the first step to building character within our kids is to determine what characteristics, and values we want to see in them, both now and later. If we don't know what values we want them to have, it will be impossible to intentionally parent towards that goal. It would be like training for a race without the race in mind. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it." We as parents and other adults in places of influence, we are to be guides for our kids, directing them to the path of deep character. But an essential aspect of a guide is that they've traveled that path before. They can show the way. I would encourage everyone here, parent or not, to think through and write down, what values do I want to instill in the next generation? What characteristics do I want my children to have, both now and later? Some of the values that I want to see in my girls are faith, peace, authenticity, perseverance, empathy, a desire to learn. And once I know the destination, where I want them to end up, I can more successfully determine if my actions, my words, my training is such that it will create the environment to lead them there. So we must focus on the root. And we must understand that character is both taught and caught. So this is where we begin. We have the destination in mind, and we begin by teaching and living out those values we want to see in our kids. This is because character truly is taught and caught. If I teach patience, but I am continually impatient with those around me or with my kids, I'm missing half the equation. We read in the Gospels that Jesus was very intentional about teaching and modeling what he wanted us to know. He said things like, "Healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners." But then he took the next step, and he devoted his time to the outcasts, the marginalized, prostitutes, lepers. He taught, "Love your enemies and do good to those who persecute you." But then he endured ridicule, abuse, and condemnation without retaliating against his assaulters. We can learn a great deal from the words of Jesus, and we can learn a great deal from the life of Jesus. But there is greater power when we hear his words and we see his life and how they work together. And this is the power in our parenting as well. In our world, we hear so many voices, so much fake news. We see people saying one thing and living a completely different way. And what happens when we see that? We discredit that person because we know that character is in the doing of what you say. And this is parenting as well. We model character by doing what we say. You see, our kids are listening and they're watching. They're listening and they're watching when we want them to and when we really would rather them not be. They are. And they're asking themselves, is what I'm being taught matching up with what I'm seeing displayed? I want to tell you a story about a 7-year-old boy named Jesse. It was a Friday night, and Jesse and his 5-year-old brother were having a great time playing together. That is, until they both wanted to play with the same remote control truck. Things escalated quickly, There was yelling, and Jesse got so frustrated that he pulls his arm back and he hits his little brother. Well, this results in screaming and crying and the entrance of mom and dad into the situation. And after the parents hear what had just happened, they sit Jesse down and they look him in the eye and they say, Jesse, when you are angry, you talk through your problems. It is never okay to hit your brother. And so Jesse takes that in, takes a deep breath, slightly stubbornly apologizes to his brother, and all is well in the world again. They go to bed, and then they wake up the next morning, and they pack up their car, they pack up the cooler, and they head to the baseball fields for Jesse's baseball game. And everything's going great. The kids are having fun until the ump makes a call that the parents are unhappy with. And after that call, this is what happens.
Incredible pictures. A 13-year-old umpire makes a call. Tempers flare. Parents punching one another. This all-out brawl at a youth baseball game is now getting national attention.
So, what do you think Jesse's thinking as he's watching this? What does he believe? And what truth settles in his mind? What does he do next time he's angry with his brother? You see, we need to teach. It's so important. But we also must model what we are teaching. Because if we're saying something, but we're not modeling it, it's hard for that character to develop. It's not possible to see the fruit of peacemaking if the root is planted in violence. And just as it's so important that we model what we're teaching, we also must teach about what we're doing, about what we're modeling. If you make date night a priority, tell your kids why it's so important to you. If you give your time volunteering at the homeless shelter, explain to your kids the reason why you're willing to give your time in that way. And if you choose to forgive someone who's mistreated you, explain to your kids why you choose to forgive when you've been hurt. This will help your children develop the ability to think through how their own beliefs and their actions work together. And this is a key in developing character. So we must focus on the roots, and character is taught and it's caught. Next, I've learned that character develops in the soil of love and respect. As we look to create an environment that supports the development of character in our children, it is so important that they are seeing love and respect displayed, and that they are also expected to live into a space of love and respect towards others. North America's best-known character education trainer, Thomas Lacona, says, "The power in our modeling depends on the strength of our relationships. The more successful we are in showing our children that we respect, care for, and listen to them, the more they will look to us as models of values and virtues to develop. If we want to be a voice that is listened to, we must invest in the relationship. We need to acknowledge the humanness in our children, that they are worthy of love, and they are also worthy of respect. Situations in our families can get so dismantled when we fall into a cycle of withholding love and respect from one another. Dr. Emerson Eggerichs has written extensively on love and respect within marriages, but he's also written about love and respect within families. And he uses this image to show the crazy cycle that can happen when love and respect are not involved. So as you can see going around this, oftentimes kids will display behaviors or act out when they are feeling insecure or unloved. But these behaviors can make us parents feel disrespected. The trouble occurs when we feel disrespected if we then act in ways or speak in ways that lead our child to feel even more unloved. And then the crazy cycle continues and continues and continues. So here's the challenge for us, parents, teachers, coaches. It's to put our reactions on hold. And as we are taking some time to pause, to ask ourselves, what is going on in the heart of my child? Are they feeling unloved? What is going on in my heart? Am I feeling disrespected? If we can stop and ask these questions of the situation, greater insight can occur. And we can give ourselves time to then act in a way that leads our child to feeling loved by us and will lead to us feeling respected by our child. Ephesians 6, it begins by appealing to kids that they are to honor their parents. And then it says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger by the way you treat them. Rather, bring them up with the discipline and instruction that comes from the Lord. This passage tells us that we as parents, we have the power to plant a seed of anger and hostility into the heart of our child if we treat them harshly. But if we choose instead to listen to the instruction of the Lord in our parenting, we can plant seeds of faith and hope and love in the hearts of our children instead. There is a way to discipline and to instruct children in a way that reassures them of our love and also sets expectations and shows appropriate consequences. This not only builds our character as adults, but it models and teaches character in our children as well. Children have an intrinsic need to feel loved, especially from their parents. And parents have a need to feel respected by their children. So when both of these things are happening, families can get off that crazy cycle and can begin to experience closeness and growth together. But this isn't always easy. We will mess up. We will lose our patience. Our kids will mess up and they'll make mistakes. But just as God has shown us that true life and healing comes from forgiveness, when we ask our kids for forgiveness when we mess up, and when we offer forgiveness to them when they fail, their roots of character will get deeper, will get stronger. So where do we go from here? What should you be leaving with today? I believe the first step is one I have already mentioned. Take time to write out what values you want to instill in your children. What characteristics do you want them to have? Think through it. Write them out. Continue to go back to them to refocus your parenting. And then after you have them written out, spend some time evaluating your own life. Asking, am I intentionally teaching these values? Am I intentionally modeling these values? And if you answer no to either one, don't beat yourself up about it. Think of it as a fresh start. Think of one way you can begin teaching and modeling those values. Next, I would encourage you to gain a support network. Reach out to other parents, to grandparents, to family friends, to church members. Ask them to come alongside you because we need each other. It truly does take a village to raise the next generation. Maybe share with those closest to you what values you wrote out so that they can also come alongside and know what your end goal is. If your children are grown or you don't have kids, I would encourage you, get involved in the life of a child in a big way or even a small way, because you have something to share. You have something to offer. Volunteer at a school or here at church. Be a Kids Hope mentor. Coach a team. Over the last several years, my husband has coached our girls' softball team. And in having those experiences, we have seen the power of coaches, the influence they can have negatively or positively in the lives of children. We need good coaches. Or maybe for you, it looks like engaging with the kids who live in your neighborhood. Find some place to step into. And then the last thing I would encourage is perhaps writing out a family manifesto. Somewhere you can have written out what you want to see in your family. And when you see it, what the result will be for your family. And I'm going to end today by reading the Wholehearted Parenting Manifesto written by author and speaker Brené Brown. So maybe you don't want to write your own. Steal this one, it's in your program. So the Wholehearted Parenting Manifesto. Above all else, I want you to know that you are loved and lovable. You will learn this from my words and actions. The lessons on love are in how I treat you and how I treat myself. I want you to engage with the world from a place of worthiness. You will learn that you are worthy of love, belonging, and joy every time you see me practice self-compassion and embrace my own imperfections. We will practice courage in our family by showing up, letting ourselves be seen, and honoring vulnerability. We will share our stories of struggle and strength. There will always be room in our home for both. We will teach you compassion by practicing compassion with ourselves first, then with each other. We will set and respect boundaries. We will honor hard work, hope, and perseverance. Rest and play will be family values as well as family practices. You will learn accountability and respect by watching me make mistakes and make amends, and by watching how I ask for what I need and talk about how I feel. I want you to know joy, so we will practice gratitude. I want you to feel joy, so together we will learn how to be vulnerable. When uncertainty and scarcity visit, we will be able to draw from the Spirit that is a part of our everyday life. Together, we will cry and face fear and grief. I will want to take away your pain, but instead I will sit with you and teach you how to feel it. We will laugh and sing and dance and create. We will always have permission to be ourselves with each other. No matter what, you will always belong here. As you begin your wholehearted journey, the greatest gift I can give to you is to live and love with my whole heart and to dare greatly. I will not teach or love or show you anything perfectly, but I will let you see me, and I will always hold sacred the gift of seeing you, truly, deeply seeing you. So parents, take courage. You can do this with the strength that comes from the Lord and comes from each other. Will you pray with me? God, thank you so much. I thank you for the example that you have so beautifully set for us, that you've shown us what it means to be a good father, to be a good mother. So I pray for each person who is working every day to love their kids, to raise their kids, to instill character in their kids. Give us strength, give us hope, give us peace and perseverance. We pray this all in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.